All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much to everyone who's joining us here today. Manas and I are so excited to be here and to be speaking with you all about how to advance your FinOps and cloud optimization practice beyond just visibility by using software to identify actionable opportunities to reduce your cloud spend without impacting performance. My name is Taylor. I am a cloud FinOps specialist here at PointFive. I've been at PointFive for almost a year now. Previous to that, I spent the past 5 or 6 years or so in dedicated FinOps roles across numerous companies, most recently with NBC Universal, where I've always been focused on identifying and driving actionable cost optimization opportunities and have delivered tens of millions of dollars in annualized cloud savings to my employers. I'm joined by Manas on the AWS side. Manas would love to give you the floor for a quick introduction as well.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. Good morning and afternoon, everyone. I am Manas Satyathi, a technical account manager at AWS. I've been in AWS for last 7 years and currently specializing on AWS cloud optimization and particularly applying generative AI technologies for cloud operations challenges. So looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, thanks, Manas, and we're really looking forward to sharing some actionable insights. So hopefully everyone that's joining today can come away from this presentation with some real actionable next steps and new insights on how to improve the efficiency of their cloud environment. But before we really dive into the content, I just want to say a few things, right? And one is that really, from my perspective, this entire space of cloud cost optimization, right? It really comes down to the simple fact that, within large organizations, we have so many individuals that are utilizing cloud services, and each one of these services, right, has its own unique and frankly, oftentimes quite complex billing model, right? And when our engineering teams are using these services to deliver their goals, they, number one, don't always have a full understanding of the cost impact of every one of their architecture and design decisions, or potentially they're not even aware of what options might be available to them to reduce their costs. And number two, the fact that the optimal architecture, configuration, right, resource to be used is highly dependent on its utilization, right? Because many of the pricing models within AWS have these break-even points for different resource configurations. And as workload utilization patterns change, so does the optimal configuration for a given workload. So this is not a static point in time decision, right? But the cost impact of doing this correctly can be quite large, especially at enterprise scale, and is certainly worth paying attention to. So what we're going to be talking about today is how you can use software to identify these actionable opportunities to reduce your cloud spend without impacting performance and move the conversation within FinOps from what did I spend, right? What are my trends? What's my cost by service? Into how can I build a system that continuously measures my cloud efficiency and surfaces these actionable opportunities and drive action to realize measurable savings. And one of the best first steps you can take is with AWS native tools. That's why I'm joined here today by Manas from the AWS team to speak to some of that. And then after his presentation, we'll get into a bit more about PointFive and how we can help you get to the next level and build this system to help you manage the efficiency of your cloud environment. So with that, would love to hand it over to Manas to talk a bit more about the AWS tools that you can use in the space. Manas, please take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Taylor. As you are just discussing that cloud optimization is a critical strategic initiative for many of our customers, as there are a lot of moving parts and cloud cost can be large. And if you really look at, it's not just about cutting cost. If you just look at just trying to cut cost, that's not necessarily the strategy that you want to adopt. It's about adopting a comprehensive culture of optimization across multiple dimensions, whether it's security, fault tolerance, performance, and efficiency, and of course the cost effectiveness. So if we look at the approach, what we take in AWS and what we recommend for our customers, the fundamental question we try to address that how do you effectively approach the optimization where there are so many moving parts. As Taylor was talking, that there's so much of resources and features and purchase options, it's not quite easy to start with. The reality is that optimization requires significant time and resources for your team. The workload configurations constantly evolving in your environment. AWS continuously releasing new features and new options to adopt. So every optimization cycle demands resources for like identifying what needs to be looked at, what analysis needs to be done, and what how you remediate those. And this is exactly why AWS advocates for a continuous automated, like continuous iterative journey tied to specific business outcomes. Each of these cycles that you do to identify and find out what needs to be remediated, it needs to be tied to a business outcome. So what we have seen these motions in this cycle is you start with learning about best practices and emerging optimization opportunities that lies in the environment. And then you figure out how to measure those, identifying gaps between your current state and AWS best practices or industry best practices. And then you figure out how to improve by implementing changes and kind of continue the cycle. And when you measuring the need for making progress, you need to explore at least two of these critical dimensions. One is the systems configuration that kind of encompass your entire technology stack, which services you use, what resources they are using, what purchase options they are using, and their configurations, how aligned they are with the best practices, or even your specific internal governance requirements. And the other area that you need to look at is the people and process. As technology alone, you will find isn't enough. Developing and operating optimized workloads at scale requires right organizational processes and skilled teams working in harmony. That's why AWS provides these two complementary discovery models. And that's where in this slide, you're talking that automated discovery and conversational discovery, you kind of need to adopt both of these. And automated discovery is this technology-driven tools that Taylor was mentioning that you'd adopt. And in AWS, we have AWS Trusted Advisor that helps you scan your environment and provides you guidance in a series of checks that you can find that what are some of these potential opportunities lie. While there's the purchase options with like reserved capacity, it can guide you on underutilized resources that can be right-sized. While it figure out that how the checks can give you the tangible and actionable insights. The other side, if you continue on the automated discovery part, that's where the Trusted Advisor is fitting in, right? So Trusted Advisor is a fully managed service that provides continuous automated discovery of your cloud environment, available through both management console and APIs. And as you can see, it actually collects different level of findings and recommendations from a series of domain services like Resilience Hub, Security Hub, AWS Compute Optimizer, AWS Config, as well as Cost Optimization Hub recently you have integrated with. So a series of domain services are looking at your configurations and regularly scans your environment and identifies deviation from AWS best practices and provides actionable recommendations for optimization. So the real power comes from the API capabilities, where you can automate programmatically both discovery as well as remediation action, creating a kind of a self-healing optimization system that you can build, or you can look at additional partner ecosystems that are available. This transforms kind of organizations from manual to a periodic activity that you can figure out how to automate and remediate your findings. If you go to the next slide and talk about a little bit more of AWS Trusted Advisor, it's the central hub or home of AWS best practices that we provide with multiple pillars with security, fault tolerance, cost optimization, performance, operational excellence, and service limits, where all of the checks are aligned with these pillars and comes with a comprehensive evaluation using the checks that identify optimization opportunities across your entire AWS infrastructure and comes up with prescribed guidance with specific recommendations to implement AWS best practices. And of course, there are capabilities through the console that you can get organization-wide visibility and download aggregated report of Trusted Advisor findings and recommendations for your entire organization. You can do proactive monitoring as well with EventBridge, and we'll talk a little bit more in the next slide that how it works. So how it works, pretty much you can use Trusted Advisor and see your current findings with the console just for visual exploration. As I was talking, you can use the Trusted Advisor API for programmatic integration. Many of our customers have a pretty good system built in to figure out the findings in a programmatic way and also take some remediation actions based on different criterias. And the final one is the event bridge for alerting based on like certain status change. You want to know when certain things going from yellow to red. And as you can see in all of these pillars, it gives you the check results with a status indicator with green, yellow, and red. And where the red is, it basically where we are suggesting, hey, there is an action is recommended and critical findings potentially requiring your attention. Next slide, I want to talk about what's today and what's coming up. Today, Trusted Advisor offers over 500 checks across all these 6 different optimization pillars, helping customers achieve comprehensive automated kind of discovery and findings. However, we do recognize there are certain limitations today we have with programmatic access to organization-wide findings is limited to console only. There are customers who are looking for API access. Recommendations are primarily based on AWS best practice recommendations, does not quite have a application-specific context, and also has limited capabilities for personalization. So the exciting part is a next generation of Trusted Advisor and well-architected tool is coming up to deliver you intelligent, context-aware, and goal-driven optimization recommendations, specifically tailored for modern cloud application. This AI-powered evolution should help you transform your organization's approach on cloud optimization. So stay tuned for more announcement later this year. As we continue to innovate, optimizing your, helping to optimize your cloud journey. I'll be available for questions at the end of the webinar, but let me transition to Taylor to know more on the offerings from PointFive.
Thank you so much, Manas. And before I go too deep into my content, I just want to say I feel very fortunate to be here with Manas presenting. I've been a big user of Trusted Advisor for many years, driven several $100,000 of optimizations through the findings that they give to you, whether it's underutilized compute instances, whether it's EBS volumes that have throughput or IOPS configurations that aren't optimal based on the workload. There's been a lot of value that can come out of Trusted Advisor. And really what I'm going to get into now is kind of how to take that approach, right? This approach of scanning your environment and identifying these opportunities for you to reduce costs and how to blend that into really a system where you are continuously scanning your environment for many, many more types of inefficiencies. And that's what PointFive, the platform, is intended to do. And that is the practice in which we are calling cloud efficiency posture management. This terminology may be new to some of you on the webinar today, but some of you it may sound familiar because it comes from this practice in cybersecurity, right? There's this thing called your security posture, right? And there are many tools that offer cloud security posture management. And essentially what these suite of tools are and what your security posture is there are these, things like you may have heard of Wiz or Palo Alto Networks, many of you may be familiar. These tools are continuously scanning your cloud environments for potential vulnerabilities that exist within them, right? And then surface them to you for remediation and give you some steps with that. Cloud efficiency posture management is taking the same approach, but in the FinOps or the cloud cost efficiency domain. And this is really important because, frankly, this is a big problem. These numbers on the screen here you'll see today, these are from number one, a Deloitte study, and the second is a Flexera study that they put out. But out of the $825 billion of cloud spend that is projected for 2025, over 27% of that's expected to be waste, right? Or inefficient spend, which is over $220 billion a year of potential waste or inefficiencies within the environment. Now, FinOps is doing a good job, right? This is what the entire FinOps domain is here to try and remediate, but it's expected that FinOps is going to save only $21 billion during 2025, which sounds like a lot, right? But when you compare it to the 27% projected or expected waste on the $825 billion to spend, it's actually less than 10% of the total inefficiencies in the environment that are being remediated with FinOps today. And this is what we're trying to solve for, right? How do we increase this number and reduce the amount of money that everyone's wasting in the cloud? And as I noted earlier, this problem comes to fruition because of complexity, because of the fact that, especially within enterprise environments, there are just so many services being used by so many different teams and so many different individuals that managing all of this is complex, right? Each one of these services that you're using has its own unique pricing model, right? And each resource, of which you have many, many thousands of them if you're operating at scale, has its own utilization patterns that warrant a custom approach to make sure that it is the optimal configuration for that resource. And this is something that is very, very hard to scale and identify manually, right? And I think that when people, a lot of folks, even those that are quite experienced in the FinOps domain, when they think about cloud inefficiencies, there's a couple examples that come to mind, right? Things like your load utilization EC2 instances, right? Right sizing compute. Things like your EBS, IOPS, and throughput, right? RDS or managed databases that are idle or have no connections. Maybe you think about your commitment-based discount programs, right? How do we make sure that we have savings plans in place, RIs in place across the different services that have these offerings? And those are very important. You can realize a lot of savings. Trusted Advisor will help you find a lot of these things. But the reality is that most of the mass, most of the inefficiency, most of that 90% that will remain, unresolved, even with advanced FinOps practices, is because of the mass that is under the surface, so to speak, across that long tail of cloud services that folks, frankly, aren't paying attention to because they're not equipped to, right? The things that, are not on the top of everyone's list to check constantly. I mean, inactive CloudWatch log groups, right? Your Aurora database storage configurations. If you're using DynamoDB, do you have the right read and write capacity units provisioned? Are you looking at all of your endpoints? Are you looking at your NAT gateways? Are you looking at your data transfer across AZs? There are so many of these different, unique, service-specific inefficiencies that could be present within your environment that today we're not equipped to handle. And actually, I've been working for the past several months on a project with many folks in the community. We have over 80 contributors to this project to build the most comprehensive knowledge base of these types of potential inefficiencies that exists out there. This is a completely free resource. It's available at hub.pointfive.co. The QR code is here. Check it out. You're going to find over 220. We have actually over 20 new inefficiencies that are just waiting to be published. It'll be above 240 inefficiencies by next week that are here. And really, this is just something that is meant to provide you with insight into what are these potential inefficiencies that I might not be aware of that I should be looking for. And this knowledge base has been seeded with both information from the PointFive research team, which we'll get into a little bit about who this team is and what they do, as well as community contributions from many folks in the industry, some of whom are on this call today. But while this is an awesome resource that can be used, we need to take it a step further and think about how to surface these types of inefficiencies and these findings automatically. Because while the hub is an awesome resource that you can go and look at and use and find inefficiencies, you know, you could go out and task your engineering team and say, hey, go look and find me savings opportunities, dig through the, all the services you're using and their utilization rates and come back with some findings. And if you do that, I guarantee they will come back with some great ideas and you'll be able to get some great findings. But what this will require is, number one, those engineers who, frankly, they're probably busy enough, they'll have to do a lot of work in order to first deeply understand the billing models of the services that they're using. They're going to have to understand where are the data sources for the different utilization rates that they need to find. They need to find these utilization metrics. They need to write scripts to gather them or use the UI. They need to reconcile the findings and then communicate those with the relevant stakeholders. But here's the thing. Even if you're doing all of that at enterprise scale manually, you won't be able to get everything. That's just the reality. With thousands of resources running across different accounts in different regions, not to mention the fact that, as I alluded to earlier, that utilization patterns change over time. It's very difficult to do this manually, although this is the default practice today. But as we've been alluding to throughout this entire presentation, the good news is that today software can do this job for us, right? And that's what we're calling this cloud efficiency posture management, right? Because essentially, as I was speaking to earlier, we have the capability to build these detection algorithms to essentially look for, scan, and continuously identify these types of inefficiencies within your environment over time. And this is what PointFive, the product, is intended to do. So let's just get into that a little bit. So PointFive, it's my employer. We are a company that is built to do cloud efficiency posture management, that is built to help you to identify the long tail of cloud inefficiencies that exist within your cloud environment, push those insights to the relevant people within your organization such that they're able to take action and actually realize the savings. And the way that this works is, number one, with a completely agentless and read-only integration. So it would be a CloudFormation template that is deployed within your environment. Like I said, completely agentless and read-only. And what we'll do is continuously scan your environment for over 250 unique types of inefficiencies that could exist, like the ones that are in the Cloud Efficiency Hub. The way that this works is PointFive has this team that's called the research team. And essentially, this is a group of individuals that all they do every single day is go out, deeply understand these billing models, understand where the break-even points and where there could be potential inefficiencies, ingest the right usage metrics and utilization data and networking data in order to create a detection algorithm for a specific inefficiency within your environment. Multiply that by the 250 plus types that we have already, and these folks are putting out new optimization types, new inefficiency types every week in order to grow into a more comprehensive platform to find more waste categories. And we're not going to stop. We have over 40 different cloud services covered today, and our average customer is identifying between 15 and 30% inefficiencies. By the way, this is on top of the inefficiencies that they're already aware of within their existing tools that they're using. So I'm just going to do a really quick demo so you can see what this looks like in action. It's going to be fairly brief. Obviously, if anyone's interested, we can get into more of it. But essentially, this is the PointFive platform. And what you're looking at is each one of these rows. By the way, this is what would show up within 24 to 48 hours after the very quick and easy integration. Each one of these rows is a resource level recommendation, or we call them opportunity, to reduce cost without impacting performance. And what we do is we identify and map individual resources to teams or individuals within your organization such that they are pushed the insights that are relevant to them. And once they do that, you can see when you click into each one of these resource level recommendations, it's treated as a ticket and it's loaded with all of the data that backs up this finding in a language that engineers understand. So in this case, we're looking at, what is it? This is an Aurora cluster that is currently using the standard storage configuration, but based on the utilization patterns, it would be better suited on the IO optimized configuration. right? And essentially, when you are looking between Aurora Standard and Aurora IO optimized, the Aurora IO optimized is going to be more expensive for compute, more expensive per gigabyte of storage, but the IOs are included in the price. And in this case, this is a real case from that we've seen with customers. They're using Aurora Standard, but based on the IOs that they're receiving, their total monthly cost could be cut significantly through making a change to the IO optimize. As you can see, we give all the data in terms of the number of hours it was running, right? The total compute cost is actually going to go up if you make this change, as will the monthly storage costs, flat per gigabyte rates. However, based on how much they're spending on the IOs in the standard, they're going to save, $17,000 on the IOs when you net it out with the additional cost they'd realize from the monthly compute and the storage amounts. The total savings that they would realize is this $14,000, $14,546 per month. So with this, we also give very detailed information into how this remediation should happen. We give detailed steps, links to relevant documentation, and we also try and just gather all the information that might be relevant to the engineer making this determination in terms of all the resource metadata they may want to go to the console to look for. We show them this resource hierarchy so they can see exactly where it lives. And using networking data, we can also see essentially what are the other resources that communicate with the one in question, such that you can kind of understand and build a blast radius of the types of inefficiencies that exist. As I mentioned, each one of these opportunities is treated as a ticket that is automatically pushed to the relevant owner. We have integrations with Jira and ServiceNow to implement this into existing workflows, as well as some auto remediation capabilities as well. So this is the individual per resource level view. You can also group these findings by inefficiency type. And this is really helpful for things like bulk remediation, right? So in certain cases, it's kind of like a death by 1,000 paper cut scenario. As an example of this would be like an inactive VPC interface endpoint, where you could have, in this case, thousands of them, although each one is only $37 per month, which may not be worth the effort to go in and remediate individually. We can put together auto remediation workflows and provide you with the scripts that are needed to go and remediate this yourself. So just to reiterate, PointFive itself is completely read-only. What we want to do is get you to the 1 yard line and enable your team and give your team the tools that they need in order to take action and remediate very quickly. So just going back to the deck now, just want to give a quick kind of case study and an example of a customer that has used our platform to drive significant savings. Nubank is a big customer of ours. They actually came and started using PointFive when they already had a quite mature FinOps practice operating at very large scale, one of the biggest DynamoDB users in the world, actually. They have over 1,000 engineers. They were all onboarded to PointFive, and they've driven already over $15 million of annualized savings this year alone. And the cool thing is this is a direct quote from their senior director of engineering. They found that PointFive was showing them opportunities to reduce costs that they never knew existed, and it took only 10 days for them to get a full ROI on their partnership with PointFive. Now, what this means for you and what is available today. So what we are doing is we are offering to any individual that is on this webinar right now a free efficiency assessment. What this means is you can do that 5-minute completely agentless and read-only integration absolutely for free. You will get access to the PointFive platform and see all of the findings. We don't gatekeep a thing from you during this evaluation. And you can see the types of inefficiencies that we will uncover and actually start taking action. Since we started doing these assessments, we've had customers that came in and saved several $100,000 during this assessment before they even made a decision as to whether they were going to purchase the PointFive platform. So you essentially come in, do the integration. Within 24 to 48 hours, you'll see the findings and you can start remediating. And essentially what we'll do is give you insight into all of these potential inefficiencies that the PointFive detection algorithm will identify for you. So that's it. That's what I got for you. Thank you so much to everyone for joining today. I believe we're going to open up the floor for some questions now, which Ray from our side will moderate. But again, really appreciate you all being here and hope this was helpful content for you.
Awesome. Great job, Taylor and team. So we do have one question or three questions. One of these is for Manas. So first one is, does Trusted Advisor feed cost optimization opportunities to Cost Optimization Hub, or is it the other way around?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's the other way around. Trusted Advisor pulls the checks from Cost Optimization Hub, and if I can post here, I'm not sure if I can post an answer. There is a blog we have that teams can look at for further.
Awesome. Thank you, Manas.
Yep.
This one is for Taylor. Can PointFive automate any of their remediation work, or is it just providing recommendations?
Okay, that that's a good question. You can take it in a couple directions. So, do we automate remediation? Not directly, because as I mentioned, Point5 is a completely read-only platform, right? We don't have the access to actually make the change. And the reason for that is because what we've seen from the market is that folks aren't quite ready to give a tool access to actually write to their environment. So what we do to adjust for that is essentially try and give your team all the information they need and give them, remediation scripts that they can run using their own permission, so to speak. And oftentimes this is a very, very frictionless process. As you saw in the demo, I gave the example of VPC endpoints that were idle. In that case, we give bash scripts that can be executed with all of the resource IDs pre-populated. We also have certain opportunity types that have SSM runbooks that are pre-populated that literally you click the button in Point5, it would open within your AWS console, which you would log into with your permissions, a pre-populated SSM runbook that you could click a button and it would run and remediate that for you using your own permissions. We also have some other new features that are pretty cool related to how we can integrate with essentially agentic IDEs and provide very detailed prompts that you could then give to your GitHub Copilot that would be able to make changes to your Terraform or infrastructure as code to do kind of mass remediation through that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Taylor. And then we have a couple more here. So how do you get information from the commercial and the Gov clouds? Do you install agents or feed in CloudTrail logs or both?
Okay, so first, we do not support GovCloud today, unfortunately, but in the commercial, AWS environments, we do the full integration, and it is completely agentless. So we do not have a Point5 agent that you have to install on any resources. We leverage essentially all the information that is already available for us to capture. So we're grabbing things like, your CloudWatch data. We do use CloudTrail logs. We don't actually create them ourselves. We typically will hitch a ride on some existing logs that you have in place, thus to essentially not provide incremental cost to you. We also, hit service level APIs. We're grabbing networking data through VPC flow logs, Route 53 query logs. There's a lot of ways that we capture the data that we need in order to make our decisions, but it is completely agentless and read only.
Okay, great. Thank you. Questions are continuing to flow in, which is great. It says, for Taylor, how do you get memory and CPU usage from instances via installing agents or instances? Same question with obtaining percent use from EBS instances. Do you install agents? Agents are a concern as they require security approvals.
Yeah. So I kind of just answered this in the last question, but we are completely agentless. There does not exist a Point5 agent. Okay, so we're grabbing things from, for example, CloudWatch would be a way that we get the CPU utilization. As you know, or may know, the CloudWatch natively in the basic kind of out of the box pattern does not provide memory metrics. However, if you have the CloudWatch agent installed, we can grab that from there as well. And it's possible you may have existing agents that we can gather data from as well. And happy to go deeper with you around any specific questions, for example, around the EBS utilization and all the data sources that we use for the different findings. Happy to connect and answer any further questions on that. but it
Okay.
is completely agentless.
Great, great. Thank you. Next question. Does the PointFive tool work off of only the TA findings? What advantages are there in using the PointFive tool versus just the consolidated TA report?
Okay, this is a really good question and something that I probably should have done a better job at poking at earlier. But PointFive does not take anything at all from Trusted Advisor. 100% of the findings within the PointFive platform are based on our research team's own proprietary algorithms that they wrote themselves. Okay, so this is not a regurgitation of what you're getting using Trusted Advisor. And the advantage of PointFive versus Trusted Advisor, I imagine many of you have already used Trusted Advisor today, is number one. We have many, many more types of inefficiencies that we're looking for. As we mentioned, over 250 unique detections and unique inefficiencies that we're looking for. So if you integrate with PointFive, you'll see many different, kind of like when you go back to that iceberg analogy of like the under the surface inefficiencies you may not be looking for. And then the next benefit is there's a lot of remediation workflow functionality as well, so that we're able to push those findings to the relevant individual engineers and engineering teams that own them for them to then remediate and understand, what is acceptable and really drive and track that action. So it's a combination of having, a very comprehensive waste and inefficiency detection engine and remediation workflow tools to push those insights to the right people to take action across the organization. And one just like quick story on going back to the customer case study is we have a customer that onboarded thousands of engineers onto the PointFive platform and started pushing insights to them. And they found that several of the engineers who found and implemented the biggest savings never actually were engaged with by the central team that were pushing the recommendation. So this is something that really is a system for delivering cloud efficiency and improving efficiency.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. I think we already answered this one, but it's, can you find efficiencies in Gov Cloud or just in commercial cloud? I believe the answer is commercial cloud only. We're not available in Gov Cloud.
Not quite yet. It's something that we're definitely thinking about, and we've had a lot of folks in the government ask us about GovCloud. Unfortunately, today it is in commercial only.
Awesome.
Yeah, hey Ray,
Manas.
if I can jump in.
Yeah.
The Trusted Advisor does support GovCloud. Of course, not exactly in the same scale. There is a limited scale. And I am typing a link for anyone might be interested to look at what's offered in GovCloud.
Awesome. Thank you, Manas. All right, last question as of right now. Suppose we want to do an assessment of our environment. What do we need to do for you to pull data for the assessment?
Yeah, so this is one of the best things is not much at all. So as I mentioned, it's a CloudFormation template that you would deploy within your AWS master payer account, and it should take fewer than 5 minutes to do this integration. And from there, like I said, it's a completely read-only. We can show you the CloudFormation template so you can see all the permissions that it's going to ask for and do the security review that I'm sure you would be looking to do before doing the implementation. By the way, we've passed every single one of these security reviews because it's completely read-only and agentless, and we take a lot of pride in the security of our platform. But this is just a very quick agentless integration that will be completed within, like I said, 5 minutes. And within 24 to 48 hours, you'll start seeing those findings. And as I said, this assessment is completely free, no strings attached.
Yep, and I put the assessment link in the chat as a response, or you can just scan the QR code on the screen as well.
Yeah, and also just if you have any further questions, you can feel free to reach out to anyone at PointFive, but me directly, as well as you can find me on LinkedIn. My email is taylor.hauk@pointfive.co. You can reach out to me directly there as well. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Awesome. That is all of the questions. That was a great string of questions. So thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today. Really appreciate your engagement and all those questions that we have. I really hope that this was helpful and gives you some nice things to think about. And hopefully you can go back and start implementing some of these techniques using both Trusted Advisor and PointFive to measure and improve the efficiency of your cloud environment. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.